What's up, sickos? Welcome back. Thank you guys, as always, for being here. Episode 31 on this Wednesday. It is Wednesday, December 1st. It is officially my birthday month. Yes, sir. And all I'm asking for my birthday is this time around is go ahead, like, subscribe, hit that alert button. Make sure that you guys get alerted to all the new videos and all the new clips that come out from week to week. You will see 3 episodes a week along with at least one clip, whether it's a film session or just a mashup of a highlight, either from fights, from games, from, we're going to do dots of the week. I don't know if you saw the post that I had put up previously, some of the best throws from the week. Those will come every single week. I'll probably put together mashups of best hits, like things of that nature. So please like, subscribe, hit that alert. Don't miss any of those videos. And let's get straight into it, man. Let's get into episode 31. Thank you guys, as always, for being here. We have a lot to digest, man. A lot going on this week, whether it's the fight world, the NFL, the NCAA world. There's a lot of stuff going on this week, and I am excited to get into this episode with you guys. First and foremost, before I start anything, let me start off with some happy news, some good stuff to start the day, because it is my birthday month, because my birthday is only a week away, and I'll be 29 years old. Golly, I'm getting old, man. We're right around that corner from that big 30. I'm terrified. But since we got to start off good, we got to start birthday week off hot. Lincoln Riley is out at Oklahoma. He is taking a job at USC. Why is that good news? Well, you guys know I live in Austin. You guys know I'm a Texas guy. You guys know I'm hook 'em till I die. I try not to be biased. I really do. When you guys see me come out, you know I'm a diehard Cowboys fan. You know this. I don't talk poorly about the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't look down on the Giants. I don't say anything too negative about Washington. I don't hate these teams, even though there are rival teams and I should technically not like them and root against them. I still appreciate the good things that they have. I appreciate the good players that they have on their team. And I don't really look down on them that way, and I don't talk shit about them that way. I want those fan bases to come here and get an unbiased opinion and hear somebody talk highly about their team, even though I might be a Cowboys fan. There's still good things that the Eagles do, which Jalen Hurts, later on, we'll get to it. He did make me eat my words a little bit, but there are good things that these teams do, and I give them recognition. I don't want to be a hater. I don't. But there's one team. There's one team in the world of sports that I just cannot talk about in a high, I cannot talk highly about this team. I can't give them credit. I can't sit here and talk about all the great things they do because I hate them. And that's the Oklahoma Sooners. They suck. OU will always suck, in my opinion. I don't care how many times they win. I don't care how good they are. It's just a Texas-Oklahoma thing. Don't wish anything bad about players or fans or anything like that, of course. It's just strictly in the sports world. It's forever. I want them to lose every single game. I never want them to win. Same thing. Their fan base doesn't want Texas to ever win a game. They want us to suck forever. But Lincoln Riley, my boy, my friend, used to be the enemy, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And Lincoln Riley, my guy, my friend, leaves Oklahoma and goes to USC. All I heard was all this shit talking about Oklahoma's going to run things in the Big 12 forever. As long as we got Lincoln Riley, we're the number 1 recruiting class in the Big 12 for the however many times in a row. As long as we got these guys, we're going to be on top. We're going to go into the SEC and make noise, and we're going to be the team to challenge Alabama, and yada, 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 yada. Now, Lincoln Riley, your Lord, your Savior, is gone. All this talk, all this noise. Lincoln Riley won't even leave us for the NFL. The NFL came calling, and Lincoln Riley won't leave us. That's how true he is to Oklahoma. Not only did he leave you, he left you for a Pac-12 program, a program that has been stuck in the mud since Pete Carroll left. That's who he left Oklahoma for, my guy. And not only did he dip, not only did he bounce, not only did he leave Oklahoma, he put the knife in their back, but that turn, that deep turn in their back was when he left, takes coaching staff with him, takes 4 and 5-star commits with him. Don't be surprised if their rookie quarterback takes off and is the starting quarterback for USC next season. Thanks to Lincoln Riley, Texas now has the number 1 recruiting class in the Big 12, and this is perfect timing for the UT Longhorns because now we get to go in. We get to go into the next season with the number 1 recruiting class. Let that class build a little bit. Hopefully we get into the SEC. I know they're trying to, speed that process up a little bit. But let's say it takes 2 years to get into the SEC. If we can win the Big 12 2 years in a row and get into the SEC that way, we're going to get more commits. Oklahoma, all this talk about the oil money and they got money. They don't got money like Texas got money. They ain't selling merch the way Texas sells merch. They don't got that kind of money. They just don't. Texas is going to be the team that goes into the SEC. Now, I'm not saying they're going to beat Alabama and they're going to compete and all that nonsense. I'm just saying that this is perfect for Texas in terms of recruiting class, being able to say, hey, not only will you come here and we will win the Big 12 and have a chance to go into the college football playoff, because if you win the Big 12, especially if you do it with an undefeated season, you get in. But on top of that, if you come in now, there's a big chance that in your junior year, in your senior year, when you're really making that push, you will be playing in the SEC and have all eyes on you. This is perfect for Texas. Now, with that being said, there's going to be a hole to fill, right? There's a void in Oklahoma. They're on the look for coaching staff. We've heard Cliff Kingsbury get mentioned. We heard Urban Meyer. We heard Pete Carroll. Listen, Cliff Kingsbury, I couldn't imagine anything worse. Like, you want me, I have the number 1 team in the NFC with the Arizona Cardinals. You want me to dip from that to even think of what a college football team could do about a career as a college football coach, which I've already been there. I've already done that. I've already coached in the Big 12. But you want me to think about that during a season where I have a chance to win a Super Bowl? You really think I'm going to give that some time and some thought? It's not going to happen. No team is going to think about it. No coach is going to think about it in the NFL that has something good, that is on a road to the playoffs, can be on the road to a Super Bowl. Because at the end of the day, when you think about the greatest coaches, I'm sorry, you don't think about Nick Saban. You think about Nick Saban as the greatest college football coach. You think about him up there as one of the greatest college football coaches, but there's an asterisk. There's always the college level. When you think about some of the greatest coaches of all time, you think about Bill Belichick, you think about Vince Lombardi, you think about guys that have done it on the NFL level. At the end of the day, if you're a coach, that's what every coach wants to do. It's the same thing for players. Players don't dream of being NCAA stars. They dream of being NFL stars. They don't dream of winning an NCAA championship, though that might be a dream and a goal. Their ultimate goal is to be a Super Bowl winner. So if you're Cliff Kingsbury, I just can't see a reason for him to leave Arizona, especially after he has now. If there's some big debacle and there's something that's going on within the organization or something like that, then maybe. But as of right now, the way things are going, I couldn't imagine any way in the world that he would leave Arizona to go coach for Oklahoma. I just can't see that happening. Now, as far as Oklahoma goes, like I said, Pete Carroll and Urban Meyer, there's another school now with a vacancy. There's another school that needs a college coach in there. The big-time program is going to look for a high-profile coach like Urban Meyer and Pete Carroll, and that's Notre Dame. Urban Meyer has been on record before saying that Notre Dame would be his dream job, his dream destination. Coached at Florida, coached at Ohio State, multiple championships with those programs. Now he's saying, we've heard him before on record say, Notre Dame would be the dream job. It's that school. It's that type of destination. It's just that type of place with that type of history and tradition that if you could bring that program back to a championship caliber team, that is the feather on your cap. That is the cherry on top of a great coaching career. And Urban Meyer, with what's going on in Jacksonville, with the things that he's had to deal with the negative publicity he's had to deal with, I can see him leaving. And the same thing goes for Pete Carroll. I can see a guy like Pete Carroll taking off from Seattle when things are not going well. Seattle is on a downhill trajectory, right? They've gotten worse every single year over the last 3 years, record-wise. Russell Wilson talks. What if they trade Russell Wilson? Is he going to want to stick around for some type of rebuild? If they can't trade him for Deshaun Watson or somebody of that caliber, does he want to stick around? Does he want to try to rebuild this team from the ground up? Or does he just say, you know what? Let me go to Oklahoma. Let me go to Notre Dame. Let me go see if I can make some things happen there and get back to winning, right? Get back to playoff contention and possible, BCS championship or a national championship in the NCAA, and then maybe I come back to the NFL at some point. But if you're in the NFL, unless you're getting forced out, unless you're getting fired, it's just hard for me to imagine guys taking off and going back to college. It's what you've worked up for, right? Even a guy like Nick Saban, who is one of the greatest college coaches, who has a powerhouse, who has built a dynasty and this type of, you know, kingdom in Alabama. Even for a guy as great as Nick Saban, he tried his hand at the NFL. At the end of the day, Nick Saban, I'm sure that's one of his regrets in life is, damn, I wish I could have made something happen in the NFL. I wish I could have been a Super Bowl winning coach in the NFL. If I could have been a head coach that won a Super Bowl in the NFL, that would have been that's what everybody looks for, man. You don't want to just do it at a college level. You want to do it in the NFL level. At some point, though, Nick Saban kind of took control and said, you know what? If it ain't happening here, it ain't happening here. But I still can be the greatest college coach of all time. And hats off to Nick Saban for doing so. But if you are in the NFL and you're not getting forced out, it's hard for me to imagine you going to college football unless the money is just too good. The money is just, it's too much to pass up, which goes back to Urban Meyer with Jacksonville. In order for him to leave, in order for him to quit and resign, he would have to get enough of a large, like a lump sum. He would have to get so much money from whatever college program is bringing him in that makes him want to leave Jacksonville, because he would be forfeiting a lot of guaranteed money in Jacksonville that he got when he took that job. So for him to take off and go somewhere else, he would have to get paid. And Oklahoma and Notre Dame are two schools that can make that happen. So keep your eyes out. I'm interested. Thank you, Lincoln Riley. You're the guy. Appreciate you, buddy. Big news if you're a Texas fan. Sorry, OU. Sorry, not sorry. Moving on from football, going into the boxing world. Teofimo Lopez, George Kambosos. If you missed that fight, it was great. First of all, it was a phenomenal fight. One of the biggest upsets of the year. One of the bigger upsets in a while for boxing. George Kambosos was a big underdog. Came in, dropped Teofimo in the first round, and then held his own throughout the entire fight. Won more rounds as the fight went on. Obviously, the 10-8 round definitely helped him early on. And if you're Teofimo Lopez, man, this is what happens when a guy's just too young. He beats Lomachenko, right? Becomes this undisputed champion, has all the belts in that division. And he's just too cocky, too arrogant. He takes time off. He comes back. He's talking about, I'm going to knock him out in the first round. Bet on it. You know what I mean? It's a guarantee. I'm knocking him out in round one. And he came out like if you're this skilled, if you're this talented, if you've put this much time and effort into your craft, into your skill, why would you not come out with a game plan to show and prove that skill, to highlight how high level you are as a boxer? He came out in round one the way anybody can come out in, I won't say but any boxer can come out in round one the way Teofimo Lopez came out. Just wild fire fight. I'm just going to step in the middle and I'm just going to throw wildly at you. And then he got caught. He got caught and got dropped in the first round. He came back and bounced back from it all right. And then once you saw him get into the later rounds, like rounds 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then he started putting it together. He started winning rounds. Drops Kambosos later in the fight. Has a chance to finish him. It looked like maybe he would have been able to get the stoppage. Maybe he'd be able to get the finish. But he won rounds later on and dropped him and got a 10-8 round himself after he started fighting smart. And as far as his corner goes, man, I don't know if his dad's the guy to keep him at the top. Like, his dad, listen, should he still train him? Should he still be there? Should he still be part of it? Absolutely, man. He got him there. He taught him since he was a boy, since he was little, how to get to this level, man. There's no reason why he should give up on his dad or not have him around or not have him train him or be around with him. Of course he should. Absolutely, 100%. Should he be his main corner man in a fight? I don't think so. There was just too much emotion. When he got dropped in that first round, he came back and immediately his dad contradicted the hell out of himself. He sat down in the corner, he sat down on a stool, and his dad looks at him and tells him, relax, calm down, you're going wild. Great, awesome, perfect advice. Then he goes, what are you waiting for? Knock this motherfucker out. I'm like, well, Those are contradicting, Mr. Lopez. You can't say those things. You can't say, calm down, relax, be patient, stop playing around, knock this dude out. What are you waiting for? Like, you're contradicting yourself throughout the fight. It just seemed like he was very emotional in the corner. It just seemed like he wasn't giving him great instruction, even on rounds where you can clearly see in parts of the fight where, like, hey, he's still down in the rounds here. He's still behind in the fight. He needs to kind of pick it up. He needs to, not get wild, but pick up the aggression level and force the hand and win some rounds here. Even in those situations, rounds where he clearly lost, he's coming back to the corner and his dad's like, "You're doing great. You're winning this fight. This guy's got nothing." It's like, I understand you want that confidence level to be high. I understand you don't want him to be wavered in his confidence. But because of that is why you see at the end of a fight where Teofimo Lopez gets on the mic and makes a fool of himself, saying, "I won that fight. I clearly won it," acting as if he got robbed. You didn't get robbed, man. George Kambosos clearly won that fight. Teofimo Lopez started to take over late. Of course, Teofimo Lopez, in my opinion, is still the better boxer. I think Teo wins 9 out of 10 times if they fight, but this one fight right here is a learning a curve for Teofimo Lopez, right? This is one of those fights where you're going to learn from, and you're either going to grow or you're going to hit a big wall if you don't grow from this. But I think he will grow, but I think it's going to take maturity from him, and more importantly, maturity from his father, who is his main trainer, his cornerman, to say, hey, we can't be like this anymore. Like, we have to fight smarter. We can't be flashy all the time. We can't come out here with this notion that we're just going to dominate everybody and it's going to be easy along the way. Things don't come easy. We got to take a different approach at how we take these fights. The way he fought Lomachenko, man, was beautiful. It was beautiful the way he fought Lomachenko. To come out here and have zero respect for Kambosos, it makes you feel good for someone like George Kambosos, because you don't want to see that, man. At the end of the day, it's a title fight. At the end of the day, you are undefeated and you're fighting for a title, and you're sitting here getting disrespected like that, where this dude's not even going to try to box you. He just has so little respect for you. He's just going to come out and say, fuck training, forget boxing skills, forget all that. I'm just going to come out here and try to knock you out in the first round. That's disrespectful as hell. It reminded me of Francis Ngannou, to switch it to like a UFC reference. It reminded me of Ngannou and Rosenstrike, when Francis just felt disrespected. He felt angry at the fact that he wasn't getting a title shot. You're forcing me to fight this dude. I should be getting another title shot. And he had zero respect for Rosenstrike. Didn't respect him on any level. Just blitzed him out the gates. Threw wild, ugly, dumb-looking shots, but landed, knocked him out, and that was it. That's what Teofimo Lopez tried to do. And the good thing is, this is a lesson that, hey, that shit doesn't always work. Just because you're the better fighter, if you're not trying to turn this into a boxing match, you can lose easily. Kambosos caught him, drops him early, wins enough rounds, wins the fight. Congratulations to Kambosos. He has an unlimited amount of options. We saw the mentions with Devin Haney. We see the talks about a rematch with Teofimo. We see Ryan Garcia try to jump into the picture saying he'll fight Kambosos. We've seen all these things happen now. Kambosos has all the options. He's about to make a lot of money here now. Good for Kambosos. I hope Teofimo comes back. He's one of my favorite fighters, if not my favorite fighter, especially at that weight class. I love Teofimo Lopez, man. I hope he comes back. I hope he regains these titles and ends up getting big wins again. That Lomachenko fight was huge. I hope he's able to do that again, but just be a little bit smarter, mature a little bit more. This dude's still he's 24 years old. He's a young buck, man. He still has some growing to do. So this is just a small step back for him, but I hope he comes back stronger and makes it work and makes it happen. Before we get into the games from last week, from week 12 of the NFL, before we get into the upcoming Thursday night game with the Cowboys and the Saints, before we get into that, we will get into the second edition of the segment of NFL Update. So a couple updates, a couple storylines from around the league. We'll start with the first one with Ian Rappaport reporting from the Minnesota Vikings. He said Dalvin Cook is already playing with a torn labrum on one side. Sources have told him he'll have tests today to see if the other side, if he tore the other side as well. It did come out. He did tear both. Now he has 2 torn labrums. The dude's out here trying to run the ball with no shoulders. He ain't got no shoulders, and he's trying to carry the team. You can't carry something with no shoulders. So Dalvin Cook's going to miss 1 to 2 weeks moving forward. It's a blow for the Vikings, but I don't think it's as big as a blow as people might think. Yes, you want Dalvin Cook. You guys know me. I hate injuries more than anything. I want to see all these teams play against each other at their highest level. I want to see all of them have their top guns and make it a fair fight, right? Best on best. My guys, your guys, I love it. But this isn't a huge blow for the Minnesota Vikings, in my opinion. They have a very capable running back in Alexander Madison. He's done well. He's had big games. I expect him to still have, a big game or two if he's out for 2 weeks. I expect him to do well. And this offense is not predicated off of Dalvin Cook. This offense does not run. They do not live and die with Dalvin Cook, which is a great thing for this offense. It is a lot of Kirk Cousins. It is a lot of Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. They have weapons. They have the ability to still make a push. I don't think they're going to hurt too much from Dalvin Cook. Hopefully he can come back in a few weeks, be healthy, and still be right there in that playoff hunt, right there in that, 6-7 seed in the NFC. So hopefully Dalvin Cook gets healthy. He could come back and get ready to go. Other update from Adam Schefter. Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy is out Thursday night due to contracting COVID. He will be out for this game. One of those situations where it sucks. I see that Dan Quinn is going to take over. Dan Quinn is actually going to take over head coaching duties. I thought it might have been Bones, the special teams coach, just because I know Bones is a big part of the game management. He has Mike McCarthy's ear. He's usually the one. Whenever you guys are wondering, like, oh, how come Mike McCarthy didn't call a timeout here? Why did Mike McCarthy decide to kick this field goal at this point or punt at this point or go for it at this point? Whatever the situation is, usually Coach Fossil, Coach Bones, our special teams coach, has a big say in that because he's a guy who Mike McCarthy trusts a lot with his clock management, his time management skills, what he kind of dictates, especially along terms of special teams. He kind of like, hey, let's send Greg out there. Hey, not really in his range, or let's go ahead and go for it. Or I would do this in this situation, or hey, let's call a timeout here. And kind of, he's the one kind of analyzing the game as Mike McCarthy's watching the game. He's the one kind of analyzing it from a time management standpoint. So I thought maybe he would be the one to kind of take over head coaching duties, which is just, dealing with timeouts and challenging and dealing with the management of the game, and allow Dan Quinn and Kellen Moore to still call the game and do what they've been doing. But it's going to be Dan Quinn for obvious reasons. Dan Quinn is the only person on that staff that was a former head coach. And people were like, oh, Dan Quinn, we're probably going to lose with Dan Quinn. Look what he did with the Falcons. Yeah, look what he did with the Falcons. Went to the Super Bowl. Let's not forget that this guy also, yes, he had a terrible year, his last year as a head coach for the Falcons, but he also took the Atlanta Falcons to a Super Bowl. So let's not act like this dude has no success ever as a head coach. Now, with that being said, I do worry about him coming down from the booth, going on to the sideline, the head coach. He still has to call the defense, obviously, but he's been doing it all year from up top, from that kind of sky view looking down on the defense, from him having to come from that to the sideline. Don't know if that's going to affect him too much. I don't know how our defense is going to look. But it is, it's one of those things where I don't think it's going to make or break the game that Mike McCarthy's out, but it is just an extra little speed bump. It's not a mountain to climb, but it's just an inconvenient speed bump where you're trying to get going, right? Ian Rappaport also reports from the 49ers. Offensive weapon Deebo Samuel will have an MRI on his groin today, and while he's expected to miss a little time, it's not considered a major injury. Source said good news going forward. Great news going forward for the 49ers. They cannot afford to lose Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is the engine that runs this offense, man. And now you see this offense of the 49ers get going. Jimmy Garoppolo has been relatively healthy now. Guys like Elijah Mitchell came back and had a monster game. Deebo Samuel is the guy that this offense is based around. They use him in the run game, the short pass game, the deep pass game, the intermediate pass game. He is everything for this team. He's been able to open up things for Ayuk. He's been able to open up things for George Kittle. They can't afford to lose Deebo Samuel for this stretch. He is going to miss a few games. I think he might be the same situation as Dalvin Cook for a week or two, but they need to get him back as healthy and as quickly as possible because he is a large part of that offense for the Niners. And going back to the Dallas Cowboys, Tristan Hill, this is from Michael Signora. Tristan Hill of the Cowboys has been suspended without pay for 2 games for violations of unnecessary roughness and unsportsmanlike conduct rules following Thursday's game against the Raiders. If you missed it, it was a punch thrown after the game. Him and I believe an offensive lineman were talking to each other. Maybe there's some words exchanged. Something happened. The game was already over. They were just in midfield as everyone kind of, passes by, says they're good game, shakes hands, changes jerseys, all that shit. Whatever was going on, don't know what was said. Tristan Hill snaps, punches the player in the face. He gets suspended for 2 games. And I see a lot of mixed emotions. A lot of people coming out saying, hey, that's not fair. Tristan Hill should not be suspended. They look back at the Kadarius Toney situation where he threw a punch, I believe, at Demonte Casey. It was for the safety. So the wide receiver from the Giants in that game with the Cowboys, he threw a punch. He got ejected from the game, but did not face any suspension. They brought up Trent Williams that year. He punched Richard Sherman in the face. He did not face any further suspension, just a fine. So what they're saying is, why is Tristan Hill getting a 2-game suspension if we have these examples of players who have thrown punches, whether it was during the game, after the game, that have thrown punches, done the exact same thing, and not get suspended? And I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying that it's fair at all. Yes, if you're just looking at it from every single thing should result in the same punishment. If it's the same thing, it should result in the same punishment. I get that. But Tristan Hill is a repeat offender. Tristan Hill is somebody who is labeled as just not a very good guy in the league. If you guys remember what he did to Chris Carson just last year, he ended Chris Carson's season with that just dirty, cheap POS gator roll that he did. If you go back and watch that game, if you remember that game against the Seahawks, Tristan Hill gets a tackle on Chris Carson. He grabs his leg, he goes down, and as Chris Carson goes down, Tristan Hill, still holding on to his leg, twists and rolls his body and completely blows out Chris Carson's knee. Just blatant, dirty move. Ended Chris Carson's season, which is just, it's despicable, man. It's disgusting. You can't have that. Right after that, karma comes back to bite Tristan Hill. He ends up blowing out his knee for the remainder of last season. He just coming back now, and your second game back from being out for over a year, you're going to punch somebody in the face after the game. I think this is a situation where the league is just like, dude, we're tired of this guy. This guy is just not a good guy. Like, he just keeps doing stupid shit out there. It just doesn't make any sense. And you got to remember, Tristan Hill is a guy where, even though I do feel like he's talented, I do feel like he could help the Cowboys if he were to stay on the field and be a good and just focus on football. This is a guy that also got in trouble his rookie year from falling asleep in team meetings. Like, he shows up late and falls asleep in a team meeting and had to get kicked out. They sent him back to his dorm room. They do it in California or whatever. They have to stay in these dorm room kind of apartments and stuff. They had to send him back to his place because he showed up late and then falls asleep in the meeting. This guy clearly is just hot-headed. He needs to change his ways. So I get that the NFL is trying to set an example to him and people like him to say, hey, man, we're not going to put up with this shit. Like, if you're just this type of person, if you're going to be somebody that's going to do this, we're going to be harder on you than others. And we've seen the NFL do that in the past. We've seen the NFL target guys like James Harrison, target guys like Vontaze Burfict, where it's like, dude, if you're a repeat offender, and sorry for James Harrison is not Vontaze Burfict. Like, I think they're two very different people. Like, he's just a dirty player. I think James Harrison was just somebody who was so physical that had a tough time dealing with the brand new rule set that they brought to him. But my point being is, if the league feels like you're doing something or you've done things repeatedly, if you've shown a repeat, if you've shown that you have a very hard time holding back your emotions and being a mature adult about your business and about what you do, they're not going to take it easy on you, man. They're going to lay the hammer down. So I'm not really too upset with Tristan Hill's 2-game suspension. Hopefully it's good for him. Hopefully he learns, like, hey, cut the crap, dude. Just play ball, because you could be effective in this team. At the end of the day, does it hurt the Cowboys a lot? No, yes, it'd be nice to have him out there, because his 2 games back, he actually did play pretty decently. But at the end of the day, if we're getting back Neville Gallimore, and if we got Oso Digizua in there, I don't see him being more impactful than those guys. And again, I don't want somebody that's going to cost us a game. If he's that hot-headed to end somebody's season, if he's hot-headed enough to punch somebody in the face after a game when it's just words that are spoken, like, he's definitely hot-headed enough to get a 15-yard penalty in a situation that we just can't have it. So I'm not too concerned. I'm not too worried, man. Get Tristan Hill out of there. I could care less. Terrible news for the Buffalo Bills. Adam Schefter reports that they placed Tre'Davious White on injured reserve list, which means he'll be at least out for the next 3 weeks. That's a tough blow, man. A big reason why the Buffalo Bills defense has looked so good this year is because of guys like Tre'Davious White. He is their best corner. He has been one of the best corners in the league for a while now. This guy is amazing, man. He is a true shutdown corner in the league. He does a lot for that defense. So for him going out is a big blow. They're gonna have to rely on some guys, and they're gonna lose a little bit of what they had of that kind of island outside on the edge. So big blow for the Buffalo Bills. Hopefully Tre'Davious White comes back. Another team where, hey, they're going to be in the playoff hunt. Hopefully he comes back. At the end of the day, that's what all these teams are doing, man. They're just trying to get into the playoffs healthy and playing as well as they could. So they're not afraid to put these guys on IR right now. They're not afraid to say, hey, man, let's shut you down right now. Let's get you back healthy. We don't need you as much to win this 1 or 2 games, especially with the new setup where there's an extra team in the playoffs. We saw that last year when they added a 7th team. So we haven't seen guys that are too, teams aren't too concerned. Now, obviously, the Bills can't just start dropping games left and right, but if they know they're going to get him back in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, then it's worth it than trying to have him go out there and play through injuries and then lose him for the playoffs. They really want him there for the playoff push. And the same thing goes for a lot of these teams that are getting guys on IR and trying to make it work. Couple other more news on a sadder note, a much sadder note. Rams announced the tragic and sudden loss of Otis Anderson Jr. He unfortunately lost his life. He was a practice squad player. If you're not too familiar with Otis Anderson Jr., he was a guy that was on the practice squad for the Rams. Wasn't playing a lot of minutes, but his story is saddening. Apparently, he got into an altercation with his father. There was a domestic violence case where his father ended up shooting not only him but also his mother. From my understanding, his mom was in critical condition in the hospital but did not pass away. I don't know if that has changed since the last time I saw, but Otis Anderson Jr. unfortunately died at the hands of his own father, Otis Anderson Sr. It's saddening, man, to imagine somebody having the ability or the capability and just what goes through your mind and not only shoot your wife, to not only shoot the mother of your child, but to shoot your own child, to shoot and kill your son. A kid who's 23 years old, who has a promising career, who he's on the practice squad. He might make a roster. He might be in the league for a while, so much life ahead of him, so many things left to do and accomplish, gone at such a young age for such a senseless act of violence. I feel for that family, man. I hope the mom makes it through it if she's still in critical condition. I don't know the update as of right now. This was from hours ago from this morning, so I don't know the update on his mother, if she's passed or not. I hope she hasn't, but that is something tough to deal with. His father obviously in prison. He has a trial coming up. He's going to be gone for a long time. But for the family, man, that sucks. And for Otis Anderson, man, to see a guy who's trying to make the league, who's doing what he can to try to get in and create a life, not only for himself, but for that family, for his mom and dad. I'm sure he was going to create a life for them as well. So to see something like this happen at the hands of someone who's supposed to care for you and take and to be your protector and be the person that loves you unconditionally, to see that happen, it just shows you, man, that there are some terrible people in the world, man. So condolences for the family. Very sad story for Otis Anderson Jr. And then moving on, try to bring the mood back up, man. Report from Brooke Pryor. Brooke Pryor, I know she's an insider for the Pittsburgh Steelers. She reported Mike Tomlin on Chase Claypool's suggestion they should play music and make practice more fun. Mike Tomlin said, Claypool plays wideout, and I'll let him do that. I'll formulate the practice approach, and I think that division of labor is appropriate. Mike Tomlin's not fucking playing around. Like, I don't know what you want from Mike Tomlin. I understand his frustration. I understand why he's going to be pissed if Chase Claypool comes out publicly and is like, oh, I think we should be playing music and making things more fun in practice. Mike Tomlin's probably sitting there like, ain't nothing fun about losing. We have a losing record. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing record in his career as a head coach. He's never finished a season with a losing record. They are in legit trouble here. They can finish the season with a losing record for the first time in Mike Tomlin's career, and he's probably sitting here like, you want to talk about fun? You think we're losing because practice isn't fun enough? You want to play music? You want to dance a little? Let's win some fucking games. And maybe we'll play music and dance a little. Let's do our job. And maybe we'll have some more fun. Because last time I checked, when the Steelers were 11-0 last year, they were having tons of fun. Unfortunately, the injury bug hit them that year really badly. And Ben Roethlisberger seemed like his arm just fell off his body. But they were having fun when they were 11-0. Now that we've lost a few games, now that we're under 500, we're not. It's not fun enough for you. Yeah, losing sucks. Losing's never fun. So I'm sure Mike Tomlin's like, dude, I have so much on my plate. The last thing I need is media asking me about music in practice and about playing and having fun in practice. Like, I'm just trying to win games. I'm trying to game. I'm over here worrying about game plans and the X's and O's and how the hell I'm gonna get wins out of you guys. And all you're thinking about is fun in practice. I can understand Mike Tomlin's frustration, man. I'm sure he's fuming. And for Chase Claypool, I don't know how big of a situation this is. I don't know if that's a fracture in their relationship. I don't know if that's indicative of the rest of the locker room. Maybe Mike Tomlin in that locker room are having some issues. Maybe it's not as, copacetic as you would assume. It might not be a locker room that is together as much as we would expect a Mike Tomlin's locker room to be, which we've seen it happen before, man. The Pittsburgh Steelers, for some reason, just have issues with wide receivers, like between Antonio Brown, between Juju Smith-Schuster, and now with Chase Claypool. It just seems like whoever their number one target is going to be a little bit of a diva from time to time. Nothing that Mike Tomlin hasn't dealt with before. Hopefully him and Chase Claypool are good, and that's just something small where Claypool's like, they took that out of context. I really don't give a shit whether we're listening to music or not. Hopefully that's the case, and they can move on and get things done from there. And then a last report, a stupid one. Adam Schefter reports the Bears are signing DB Virgin to their practice squad. Adam Schefter, do better, man. Do better. I've followed Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport's tweets, right? I have followed them. I've gotten an alert from all their tweets. I have seen every single one of their tweets for the last 7-8 months. I have never seen them tweet about somebody being added to a practice squad. I've seen them tweet about somebody being activated from a practice squad onto the active 53-man roster, like when Dak got hurt and they had to inactivate him for that game against Minnesota, and they had to activate another quarterback from the practice squad. Like, I've seen that happen. That has happened before. But never have I seen them tweet about somebody that gets added to a practice squad. This was clearly, his name's D Virgin. I get it. I get the joke. I get that it's funny. But Adam Schefter, do better. Be a professional. Be a professional. You don't need the clout. You work on ESPN, you work on all these big networks, you cover the NFL, you've been the leading NFL insider for I don't know how long now. You've worked with the NFL and with ESPN for over 2 decades now. You don't need the quote tweets for D Virgin. Like, let the trolls handle that. You should be above that. Be a professional, man. These people are clout chasing like always, which leads me onto a bigger rant, which is, why are these professional places not always wanting to look at professionalism? How come professionalism don't matter anymore? You have guys like Skip Bayless talking about how if you're a quarterback in the NFL, you shouldn't talk about mental health because it shows weakness, and you want your quarterback to be tougher than that. And then him calling Chris Bosh Posh Spice and all these nicknames and bullshit that he gives LeBron and Russell Westbrook and all these people. Why is being professional not important anymore? It's all about trolling. It's all about clicks. It's all about retweets and comments. Like, they don't give a shit about professionalism anymore, which is wild to me because you're on a platform where you're already there. You already got the platform. You already have the platform. You don't have to troll. You don't have to show a big network or a big platform. Look at the buzz I can create. Look at the following that I have. You don't have to do that anymore. I can understand why other people do it that aren't on a platform, that aren't with a network. I understand why they do it because they're just trying to get the numbers. They're just trying to find a way to say, hey, look, this is why you should hire me. This is why you should use my services. This is why I should be brought in because look at the buzz and the things I can generate. But if you're already there, you don't need it. You don't have to be that contradictory. You don't have to be so contradicting all the time. You don't have to be so controversial all the time. You don't need all that stuff. Like, you're already there. You already have the platform. Just make it work, man. Outside of that, that is everything so far from this current week in the NFL. Getting into the shit that really matters, man, the actual games. A lot of games from this past weekend and this Thanksgiving. I know I didn't post the episode on Monday, but we are back and we are going to look over the games that happened on Thanksgiving and the games that happened on Sunday. First, we'll start with the Lions and the Bears. Two teams that just clearly don't know how to win. Two teams that are just not used to winning, that don't know how to do it. Two coaches that just don't know how to win late in games. Somebody had to win. Somebody had to do it. We saw it before with the Lions and the Steelers. They didn't know how to win that game. They had every opportunity. They just don't know how to win. And in this game, you see it again where the Lions have a chance. They have an opportunity. Even at the end of the game, they still had a chance to they still could have made a way where they could have still been given a chance to win it late in the game, and they just don't know how, and neither do the Bears. You have Dan Campbell out here. I mean, the back-to-back timeouts that led to a penalty that allows them to waste more time off the clock, get a first down, and drain the clock down to win the game off field goal when you could have got the game. You could have got the ball back with, time left on the clock with an opportunity to go down and either tie it or win it. But you ruin that opportunity because you just don't know how to win games. You've never been in that situation, which leads me to the fact that Dan Campbell may just be he may just be way in over his head. He may be biting off way more than he can chew. Dan Campbell may just not be the guy, man. And I hate to say it because everybody talks about Dan Campbell and everyone's like, we love his attitude. We love his energy. He was crying on the podium talking about how hard these guys work and how hard they play. And it sucks that they can't win. He can't wait till they break through. And as long as he says all the right shit. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, no one cares what you're saying. They care about your actions. They care about what happens at the end of the game, what happens in real game situations. What are you doing to help us win? And at this point, Dan Campbell has not done anything to help the Lions win. If anything, he has held the Lions back from having potentially 2 wins on the season. I know that ain't shit, but 2's a lot better than 0. And unfortunately, Dan Campbell has been an added reason to why they're losing. You don't want that as a first-year coach. You don't want people to clearly see, hey, not only are we not winning, but you are part of the reason why we've lost a few games. Yes, our team and our roster has lost a majority of them, but if anything, you should be the bright spot as the new head coach to say, hey, I'm going to help us win at least a couple, or I'm at least not going to be the reason why we had no chance to win a few games, but he's been the reason with his late game situations, his time management, the penalty on the back-to-back timeouts. You can't have it, man. You can't have it. And at this point, Dan Campbell looks like unfortunately, he looks like he may not be the guy, man. He looks like he may not have been ready to be put into that head coaching position. Hopefully I'm wrong because I'm a supporter of Dan Campbell. I like Dan Campbell. I liked him as a player for the Cowboys. I liked everything that he's done. He's from a good coaching branch with Sean Payton. He understands the game, of course, but in those situations, man, I don't know if it's just like his emotions are taking over. He's not been put in those situations enough. And a lot of it may have been just he didn't have the opportunities. He wasn't given full, support. He wasn't acting as an assistant coach for Sean Payton. He wasn't doing those type of things or given the leeway to do those type of things or make those type of decisions. And maybe that's what's showing here with the Lions. But Dan Campbell, I mean, got to figure it out, man. Got to figure it. Can't go completely defeated for the rest of the season. This was the game that I saw on their schedule where I was like, if they're going to get one at home, Thanksgiving against the Bears, this could be the one. And they had a chance and they don't know how to win. They don't know how to even give themselves the right opportunity to win. Moving on, Cowboys, Raiders. A lot of talk about the refs in that game. And let me be clear. The refs ruined that game. They completely they ruined that game. Now, let's break down and let's get detailed about they ruined it. There's a difference between saying the refs ruined the game and the refs were working against the Dallas Cowboys. Those are two very, very different things that I think people are not being able to grasp the concept of. The refs ruined the game. They ruined the flow. They ruined the way the game should have been played. They ruined the overall the way you want to watch football. They ruined that. They did 28 fucking penalties. 28 penalties? Why am I watching this game? It's just flag after flag. Now, with that being said, They are not the reason the Dallas Cowboys lost. They didn't work against the Cowboys. They weren't biased towards the Las Vegas Raiders. They weren't trying. It's not like they were. People were like, "Oh, they were working against the Cowboys. If it was for the rest, the Cowboys would have won." No, that's not true. I don't know if the Cowboys would have won, regardless of those penalties. Some of those penalties were definitely called for. Some of them were super, super ticky tacky. But there was a lot of ticky tack bullshit calls throughout the entire game for both teams. The suspension, I'm sorry, not to suspend. They didn't get suspended, but kicking out the two players that got into a little bit of a tussle. Ain't no punches thrown. I forgot who it was from the Raiders, but I know it was Calvin Joseph, the rookie from the Dallas Cowboys, on a punt. The dude from the Raiders grabs his jersey, starts pulling him a little out of bounds. Unnecessary. Calvin Joseph grabs his face mask and is holding it. They get into a little pushing match, tussle on the sideline. A bunch of players jump in. Guys from the Raiders bench were there. It was on the Raiders bench. The Cowboys jumped over, but nobody threw a punch. Nobody really pushed each other. Nobody really did anything that would warrant getting kicked out of the game. They just kicked them both out. I was like, why not just two, personal fouls, keep it moving? Personal foul on both ends. Hey, fucking warning for both those guys. And then keep it moving. To kick them both out of the game was just a show like, oh, okay, this is about them. This is about Sean Hockley, Ed Hockley's son, saying, I want to be more famous than my pops. Your dad wasn't famous because he was calling a bunch of fucking penalties. Your dad was famous because he was a yoked up referee. That's what he was famous for. You're not going to get famous from just calling a bunch of fouls. They lead the league. That crew leads the league in penalties thrown. That was before Thursday's game. So no shit, they were going to be a team. I think they purposely, I truly do believe that Sean Hockley and that crew made it about themselves. I think they take pride in the fact that they have broken a record for penalties thrown in the game. They ruined the fucking game, but not necessarily for the Cowboys. It just ruined the flow and how the game went. Do the Cowboys win if they had a different crew? Maybe, but they probably still lose. I don't think they ruined it for the Cowboys. I don't think they're working against the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's a fucking bait. Like, there are other reasons the Cowboys lost that were bigger reasons than the refs, but they definitely ruined the ability to just watch the fucking game. With that being said, the Cowboys, to speak on them a little bit, man, a lot of people are very worried about them. I'm worried about them in the sense of physicality. I don't like that they're playing with a lot less physicality than we've seen them at some points in this game. If you go back to the Carolina game, man, Carolina going into that game, I said, damn, this team is physical, man. And at that point, Carolina was 3-0, and I said they are a physical team. They can hit. They hit people. And when they run the ball, they try to run the ball physically. Like, their whole entire thing is about being a physical team. That's where they make their bread. That's where they hang their hat, on being a physical team. And I was worried about that game, and the Cowboys matched it and then some. The Cowboys were physical in that game, and they've been extremely physical in some games, but here's of recently, everyone talks about, since Dak's injury, Dak hasn't been the same. Maybe, but since Dak's injury, the team has not been as physical as they were. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on mentally with them, but they have lost some physicality. You see them just not making the same type of hits. They're not running the same way. They're not, moving guys the same way. We see guys like Dalton Schultz. We see Cedric Wilson, Noah Brown. We saw La'el Collins on one play. We've seen guys miss those blocks on screen games. We used to be a really good screen team, and now we're just missing blocks. We're missing assignments. Dalton Schultz can't block a 175-pound corner. Cedric Wilson misses one. La'el Collins misses a block on a screen. We're just not playing physical anymore. And I'm very worried about that. Now, with the return of guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, with the return of guys like Randy Gregory, with the return of Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb coming back this next game, like, those are things that I think is definitely going to help. And Micah Parsons being able to move back to linebacker is definitely going to help with that physicality inside those tackles, being able to help out. I want him there instead of Keanu Neal. Keanu Neal, I don't think, is a bad linebacker. He's a guy who converted from safety to linebacker. I don't think he's bad at all. I like Keanu Neal. I'm a big fan of Keanu Neal. But that's not his position. That's not what he's there for. He's there to be kind of a big nickel where you kind of have that hybrid linebacker safety. He can play on tight ends, but he's still a help in the box more so than a corner or a traditional safety would be. So I don't hate Keanu Neal, but when we put him in that situation to be like, dude, we need you to be able to jump in these gaps, shed blocks, take on blockers, be an immovable object. That's not what he does. That's not what he's ever done in his career. So to have Micah Parsons go back into that role, I think is going to be beneficial for the Cowboys, and hopefully that adds some more of that physicality that I'm talking about. But it's a mindset at the end of the day, and they need to get more physical. That was a game that just was not physical enough. Um, Derek Carr, you cannot give Derek Carr that much time. Desean Jackson continues to be a Cowboy killer. He was always a Cowboy killer, whether his stint with the Eagles, his time with Washington, he's always murdered the Cowboys, and he did it again. Him, Hunter Renfrow, it was field day out there for the Raiders, especially without that pass rush. Micah Parsons, the only player that can get anywhere near Derek Carr that entire game. So getting Gregory, getting DeMarcus Lawrence back is a huge, huge help. But that was a game where the Raiders needed to have it, man. They had to have it to stay afloat and stay in that in the playoff contention. And for Derek Carr, this is huge for him, man. Derek Carr, at the end of the day, this is kind of a resume year for Derek Carr. Whether they want to re-sign him, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Mayock and the GM, the one that's making the decisions now. We knew John Gruden had some, there was some talk that Gruden may not be a big fan of Derek Carr. He might have wanted to go a different direction at the end of the year from Derek Carr. So we don't know. Is Mark Davis going to bring in somebody else? Is he going to be the decision maker on Derek Carr? Is Mayock going to be the decision on Derek Carr? How do they feel about him? But regardless of that, his extension, his next contract is all determining on this year, and this is a phenomenal resume builder for Derek Carr. He leads the league in passing yards right now, as of today, and they've already had their bye week. So he has a really good chance to finish the season number one in passing yards in the NFL as the passing leader. Really good chance to do that. And when you look at all the things that have happened with the Raiders, you lose your head coach, you lose your star wide receiver, and you lose your best corner. You lose basically 2 first-round draft picks and your head coach, and he still some way, somehow has kept them afloat, brings a guy like Desean Jackson in and just immediate impact and gets him over 100 yards receiving in the game, has Hunter Renfrow looking like a legit Pro Bowler. Like, Derek Carr is making a case for why he should be paid and paid big next year. Whether it's with the Raiders or somebody else, Derek Carr is going to be a big player in the market, man. If I'm the Raiders, I'm keeping him there. I don't like the other options. I don't like what the options are outside of Derek Carr. I'm locking him up. I think this is exactly what he needed to do. I think the pressure was on him to be a guy, to step up, to show people, like, if I'm healthy, man, I am a top 10 quarterback. And I think he's showing that this year, especially like the turmoil that I talked about within that organization, for them to somehow, some way still be in contention for the playoffs. Hats off to Derek Carr, man. He's going to get paid and he deserves it for sure. Bills Saints, Bills absolute domination, 31-6 in that game. Another game where they win big despite an up and down performance from Josh Allen. Josh Allen, a guy where this is what pisses me off, man. People kept talking about Dak Prescott's performance in the game against the Raiders because he missed a few throws. He missed a throw at the end of the game, a throw that he just kind of skipped into the dirt against to Noah Brown on the out route on the 3rd and 8 when they were backed up. They went 3 and out, gave the ball to the Raiders. You know what happens after that? The big pass interference call, that good stuff. They lose. Everyone's talking about Dak Prescott. Oh, he missed that throw. You can't miss that throw. This is why he's not clutch. How are you playing $40 million? Blah, 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 blah. Josh Allen has zero talk about his performance. Because they won 31-6, Josh Allen's performance doesn't matter. Josh Allen did not have a great game at all. 2 interceptions on the game, 200 and something yards, just over 200 and something yards in that game. He did not have a great game. Defensively, they were amazing. They got big plays on defense, special teams, just great all-around team performance from the Buffalo Bills. They needed it to get back on track and keep going. But Josh Allen is worrying me. He has not been great this season. He continues to have these just roller coaster game week to week, very inconsistent for Josh Allen. Alvin Kamara out for that game as well for the Saints. Alvin Kamara is the entire offense for the Saints, man. You see how bad they are, how bad that team is when Alvin Kamara's hurt. They are not good at all. So Alvin Kamara coming back to the Saints this upcoming Thursday against the Cowboys is huge for the Saints. And it's just another sign of what happens when your running backs are your focal point. It's what happens when a running back is the one that leads your team. We see it with Derrick Henry and the Titans. We see it with Christian McCaffrey and the Panthers. We see it with Alvin Kamara and the Saints. When those guys are gone, they just struggle. They struggle with how they're going to get the ball into other people's hands. They struggle with having other playmakers to get those things going on. They struggle with the confidence and the ability to put the ball in their quarterback's hands. Like, it's a struggle, man, and this is why you can't pay a running back like that. I know it's tough to say. I know it's tough to say, don't pay McCaffrey, don't pay Derrick Henry, don't pay all these guys that are deserving. They're for sure deserving of it. But unless your team is a running back away, right? Unless your team is just a running back away from being a Super Bowl contender, there's no point to keep those guys. There's no point to keep those guys when you don't have a passing game that you can rely on. You don't have a passing game that makes you feel confident or comfortable. You don't have a defense that you really feel confident in. That running back is the last thing to come in. That should be the last part of completing your offense or completing your team, not just your offense, but completing your team. The last part should be a running back. And for these teams, that's their focal point. And it can't be like, if you put McCaffrey with somebody else, put McCaffrey with Tampa Bay or with New England or whatever, I can see why they're like, hey, it's worth paying that money because we have the team, and if we had this guy, he can take us over the top and he can be the reason why we go from being a legit playoff contender to a Super Bowl contender. I can see that. But for teams like these that are on the outside looking into the playoffs, it's like, why are you paying your running back? Why are you paying your running back before you have a defense that you consider a Super Bowl worthy defense, before you have a passing game and a quarterback that you consider a Super Bowl worthy passing game and quarterback, or before you have an offensive line that can give your running back those abilities? So it's one of those unfortunate situations where just because you're deserving doesn't mean you should give it to them at that team at that point in that situation. Outside of that, the Cincinnati Bengals put a whooping on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I talked about all the issues that the Steelers are having. The Bengals are surging, man. Here come the Bengals. They are doing a great job. From what we've seen from Pittsburgh, from what we've seen from Cleveland, from what we've seen from Baltimore, the Bengals might be the best team in that division. That division is one that is completely up in the air. And if the Bengals continue to play defense the way they're playing defense, and the Bengals are a perfect example, right? They go out, they spend a lot of money on defense, they bring in guys that are going to improve that defense. They have Joe Mixon. They spend the first overall pick on him. They bring in a guy like Jamar Chase. They have a guy like T. Higgins. They feel confident in their passing game. And then they go, hey, we also have Joe Mixon, who we can hand the ball off to and watch him get 165 yards rushing in this game. Joe Burrow went 20 of 24. He didn't even throw for under 200 yards, still threw a pick. Didn't matter, dominated the game because defensively they play great and they can run the football. That's the type of team where it's like, okay, you could pay your running back in that situation. You can have an elite running back or a great running back in that situation because you can rely on your defense. You feel confident in your quarterback to make throws if he has to. You feel confident and you have playmakers on the outside that could get open and can make those plays if they have to. So why not pay that running back or keep that running back or bring in a running back where you feel like, okay, now we can also take stress off, and if we can win the game easier, let's win the game easier. Let's not make it hard on ourselves. If they can't stop the run, that is the easiest path to victory. The easiest way to win a game in the NFL is to be able to run the ball up and down the field with no problems. When that ball doesn't have to see the air, that's a beautiful thing. You go back to the game with the Rams against the Cowboys in the playoffs. You go back to a game with the 49ers against the Packers in the playoffs. That's the easiest way to win a playoff game, is to just run the ball down a team's throat where you don't have to pass the ball. If you could go into a playoff game and throw 20 times, that's beautiful. Like, what else would you want to do? Other games from the weekend: Eagles lose to the Giants. Listen, man, the Eagles, again, I'm gonna try not to be biased. I'm gonna try not to make too much fun of the Eagles, but it's just hard when I kept hearing all my boys, all these people, all these Eagles fans, all these Cowboys haters talk about the Eagles are coming, the Eagles are coming. If the Cowboys don't get it together, the Eagles are on a hot streak. Have you been watching the games? When I saw the Eagles play against the Saints, I just saw two bad teams playing against each other. The Eagles every single week just are so inconsistent. They might be the most inconsistent team in the league. I mean, they go from looking like, oh man, Nick Sirianni might really know what he's doing on the offensive side of the ball. Jalen Hurts might be a guy, like, their offense they can get hot quick. And then the next week it's like, oh my God, this team is terrible. And against the Giants, I mean, Jalen Hurts, good Lord, I came on last week My last episode was just talking about how Jalen Hurts, I'm not out on him. I feel like he could be a guy. I feel like the Eagles don't have a better option. There's not an alternative outside of Jalen Hurts besides something like Deshaun Watson, but we don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson. We don't know if he'll even be available to play again in the league. We don't know what's going on with him. And is it worth multiple first round picks to bring him in? I've said I think Jalen Hurts, keep riding him and see if you could make something out of him. He's not bad. And then he goes and has a performance like this and makes me look like a fool because good God, Jalen Hurts sucked in that game. He was so bad in that game against the Giants. Like, all he needed to do was not be terrible. He didn't have to be great. He didn't have to be very good in that game to win. He just had to not suck, and he couldn't do it. I don't know what was going on with Jalen Hurts in that game. Just clear plays where it's like, take your 3 points. It's third and, they're in the red zone. They're inside the 20. I believe they're inside the 20-yard line. Third and something. He rolls out of the pocket. Hey, throw the ball away. Cool, whatever. It sucks. The play wasn't there. Let's kick our field goal. Let's get 3 more points on the board in a tight game. And just the most bonehead decisions. The most bonehead plays to turn the ball over in situations where you cannot turn the ball over, situations where it gives the other team automatic points, and situations where it takes easy points away from you. You can't do it. Jalen Hurts did it multiple times in that game, and they still had a chance to win at the end. That's how bad this Giants team is even with just a god-awful performance from Jalen Hurts, they still had a chance to win, and Jalen Hurts still delivers 2 catchable balls that could have won the game that I believe it was Jalen Reagor drops them. Just one of them doinks off his face mask and the other one right in between his hands. The Eagles are just a bad team, man. When you watch them play, I don't care if they won 3 out of 4 or whatever the stat line was. I don't care that they won 2 in a row. I don't care. When you watch them play, just watch the film, watch the games. They are not a good team. They are not a good team. They are inconsistent as hell. Sometimes their offense looks great. Sometimes their offense looks like they could be something. And then as soon as you think they can, the next week they just remind you that they are a bad football team. Colts blow another lead. They played against Tampa Bay. They were up 24-14 at half. Another example, man, of the Colts. It's hard for me to be a believer. I was a big believer in the Colts. I felt like Frank Reich was going to be able to kind of resurrect Carson Wentz's career. And to this point, he has. Like, Carson Wentz has definitely been way better than he was last year with the Eagles. Like, let's be, 100% about that. But it's another team where it's just like, you look at Frank Reich, and as much as I love Frank Reich, and I've been on record talking about how high I am on Frank Reich, how fond I am of Frank Reich as an offensive mind and as a head coach, sometimes you do wonder, like, dude, why are you getting in your own way? Up 24-14 at half, and Carson Wentz ends up throwing 44 passes. You have the MVP of the league in the backfield. You have Jonathan Taylor back there. He averaged 5.2 yards per carry and only got 16 carries. If a dude is averaging over 5 yards a carry with a lead at halftime, there's no reason he should get less than 25 carries that game. Give him the rock. They gave him the rock one possession after halftime, and it was just touchdown. Like, just gashing that defense. I don't understand why they just won't stick to the run when they have it. You look at Leonard Fournette and the Buccaneers, as soon as they start coming back in that game, it was all Leonard Fournette. It was just hand that rock to Leonard Fournette and watch him be physical and pound that defense. And they ended up winning the game off of the back of Leonard Fournette. The Colts could have done that with Jonathan Taylor, but Frank Reich and Carson Wentz, they just get in their own way, force Carson Wentz to throw 44 times, and he ends up losing. For Tampa, this is a huge win for them, man. They are hurt. They are battered. They're beaten up. Antonio Brown's still out. Gronk is just getting back into the groove. They have guys on defense. Their secondary is still depleted. They still got guys out left and right, but they're starting to get a little healthier. They're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and if they can get healthy here going into the playoffs, you can't count out Tom Brady. You would be stupid to bet against Tom Brady, because if you have, then you've lost more times than you've won. Don't bet against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially if they start getting hot, if they start winning some games here late. This was a huge, huge win for them. They needed this one. They needed to be able to beat a good team, a team that has been surging as of late. They needed this type of win to continue to get them on as they try to get healthy for the rest of the season, and especially down this stretch going into the playoffs. Uh, Speaking of Tom Brady, going back to his former team, the New England Patriots, boy, do they continue to look impressive. Bill Belichick, hats off, man. This is one of his best jobs as a head coach, man. This season right here, this is a season where you don't have Tom Brady. We know all the talk. Me myself wondering, like, maybe Tom Brady did have a lot to do with that success. And then you see him now with Mac Jones, a capable quarterback. They go out and spend a lot of money on the defensive side. They go out and make sure they secure an offensive line. They draft Stevenson, the running back. Damian Harris looks great. They bring in guys like Hunter Henry and Kendrick Bourne and these boys. And, man, they look good, man. They are balling. New England continues to impress. Mac Jones continues to look like a seasoned vet. 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. This New England team is buzzing. And like I said, they are the hottest team in the AFC. They might be the most impressive team right now in the NFL. I want to see them play against a team at full strength. I want to see them play against a team that is winning as of late. You know, they beat the Titans, which Titans has a great record. They have been a good team, but they are riddled with injuries. No A.J. Brown, no Julio Jones, no Derrick Henry. Like, that is not the Tennessee Titans. That is a shell of the Tennessee Titans. So I want to see the New England Patriots play against like a top-notch team. Before I'm really able to say like that, you know what I mean? Before I'm able to put them over like the Chiefs, before I'm able to put them over some of these other teams in the AFC, I want to see them play against somebody like that. But regardless of who they've been playing, they have looked impressive while playing them. It's not like they're squeaking out these victories. It's not like they're playing bad ball, but still being able to find ways to win. Like, this is a team that is dominated. If you're a bad team, if you got some injuries, if you got some health concerns, if you got your guys out, we don't care. We're putting our foot on the gas and we are punching you in the mouth, and that's exactly what the Patriots have done. Ryan Tannehill, it is very, very clear that the Titans do not trust him. He is not trusted there in Tennessee, especially without their star receivers, which, again, it's going to be an issue. You know, when you don't have Julio Jones, when you don't have A.J. Brown, like, yeah, you're going to throw the ball a lot less. But last week against the Texans, you saw Ryan Tannehill throw 4 interceptions in that game, and you saw it affect this game. Like, they were not letting Tannehill throw. They were like, we don't care how much we're down by. We are going to run the ball, because they were afraid that if they try to let Tannehill throw the ball, if they get into a tit-for-tat throwing game with New England, with Mac Jones, that Tannehill was going to turn the ball over, and that game would get from bad to worse very quickly. Like, Tannehill is not trusted in Tennessee, and it shows again. When your offense is generated off of a running back, man, it's tough. It's tough to do it. And they still had a good running game. They still ran the ball well. It's just they don't have the explosiveness, and they weren't able to stop that onslaught of Mac Jones and that New England team. Chargers, another team where it's like, dude, a step forward and a step back, and you take a step forward and you take 2 steps back. The Chargers are a team that I'm starting to really worry about. They go into Denver, they lose to Denver. For me, the issue with the Chargers is just the physicality level. I talked about it with the Dallas Cowboys, and I think the Chargers are a very similar team. They have a quarterback that could put up big numbers. It's hard to keep him out of the end zone. They have a guy like Austin Eckler who can run between the tackles. He's a very versatile player. He can run between the tackles, outside, get to the edges, great out of the backfield as a wide receiver. They have guys like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams that can make plays on the outside defensively. They have big name guys. They have guys that you would think would allow you to be decent defensively between Bosa and Derwin James. Like, they have the talent. When you see them play, though, they're just not physical, whether offensively or defensively. Like, they have a coach who believes in physicality. They have a coach who talked openly, who I've quoted, who I posted a clip of when he talked about the importance of the run game and how important it is to force the other team to be physical, that you don't want to get into this finesse game. You don't want to take physicality out of the game, because you're doing the defense a favor when you're not forcing them to be physical. But then you see him preach that, and then you see his team be the complete opposite. They're not physical when they run the ball. Eckler's not running the ball violently. They're not moving guys. They're not getting big blocks, big hits. And on the defensive side, they're not physical either. Whether it's Bosa, you would think that Derwin James would come down to the box and add that physicality. He'd be that Ronnie Harrison Troy Polamalu type of dude that comes into the box and sets the tone physically for the team. You see a team like Kansas City with Tyrann Mathieu, who's substantially smaller than a guy like Derwin James, and he's the enforcer. He's the guy that gets that team playing physical. And even though the Chiefs have a lot of issues defensively and a lot of holes defensively, they still play physical. Offensively, they still play physical. Like these are physical teams, and right now, I just don't feel confident in the Chargers to be physical when they need to. Sometimes you just have to, you just have to find a way to just enforce your will on another team, and the Chargers have not been able to do that at all this season. They are very inconsistent. It seems like they will live and die with the performance of Justin Herbert, and that is not a recipe for success, man. I am very concerned about the Chargers and about their chances of going to the playoffs moving forward. Like, they got to become more physical. They have to do a better job stopping the run. They have to do a better job running the ball earlier in the game, or at least just establishing some type of dominance, establishing some type of physicality leverage in a game to allow Justin Herbert and these playmakers to make plays on the outside. You can't come out off the gate and just say, hey, let's just throw the ball. Let's see who throws for more yards and throws for more touchdowns. It's not the way it works in the NFL. 49ers, on the other hand, look very good. Like I said, ground game seems to be back. Elijah Mitchell comes back and destroys it, over 100 yards rushing. Deebo Samuel, like I said, big loss for them if he's out. If he missed multiple games, which the reports so far are that he will. But the Niners look good, man. Garoppolo, when he's healthy, is still a good quarterback. Everyone calls him a game manager all the time. Like, yeah, sure, there's nothing wrong with a game manager as long as he's managing to win those games, right? Game managers are only bad if they're managing to lose it. If they're managing to win it, well, then what's the problem here? And Jimmy Garoppolo continues to do that when he's healthy, when he has a healthy backfield, when that offensive line is healthy, when George Kittle's out there blocking, and they got guys like Juszczyk out there blocking. Like, they can run the hell out of the ball. And if you're not matching that physicality, when you see George Kittle, when you see Kyle Juszczyk out there setting those blocks on the edges and coming up and cracking these linebackers in the mouth, if you're not matching that physicality with the 49ers, they can make you look really bad really quickly. The 49ers can continue to surge. They're a team that I think is going to make the playoffs. They're starting to get healthy at the right time. They're starting to play their best football at the right time. Good on Kyle Shanahan. Congrats to him, man. It's a guy who I just thought the Niners would be stupid to fire him. If he can get them into the playoffs and get them into a stretch run here, which it looks like he's going to do, then that's going to secure his job. And that's great for the Niners. The Minnesota Vikings obviously lose that game. I still like their playoff hopes despite that loss. Like, I still think they're a team that's going to make the playoffs. Not necessarily because they're just so good and I think they're just going to go on this crazy run. I just don't see anybody else contending. Again, there's 3 wildcard teams now, right? You give one to the Rams, you give one to the Niners. Somebody's got to get that third one. Why not the Vikings? I mean, do we trust Washington? Do we trust Philly? Do we trust Atlanta? Do we trust the Saints? Like, do we trust any of those teams more than we trust the Minnesota Vikings? Obviously, the loss to Dalvin Cook is a big issue, but not as big as some people would think. Again, as long as Kirk Cousins continues to play good, as long as he continues to find ways, as long as Kubiak can continue to find ways to get the ball into Justin Jefferson's hand, to get the ball into Adam Thielen's hand, I think that Zimmer and that defense will play well enough in games to get them enough wins to get them into the playoffs. As long as Kirk continues to do what Kirk does, and man, people need to stop hating on Kirk. Like, this is, again, I talked about Derek Carr, same thing for Kirk Cousins. The dude is a good football player. What do you want from him? What do you want? He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not Patrick Mahomes. Like, no shit, man. There's only 2 of those guys. He ain't Sam Darnold. He ain't Cam Newton. He ain't whatever the fuck the Jets got out there. Like, he is definitely a quarterback that you can win games with and you can live with. People think that taking out a Kirk Cousins automatically brings you in a top-tier quarterback, an elite top 3 quarterback. Getting rid of Kirk Cousins, you're probably playing with Case Keenum. Not taking a shot at Case Keenum. That's probably who you're playing with. Kirk Cousins is not bad. He has never been a bad quarterback. Y'all need to get off of Kirk Cousins, man. He's doing great. With that being said, Kirk Cousins, man. He just does not let himself not get made fun of. If you didn't get a chance to see it, Kirk Cousins goes under center towards the end of the game. The only issue is He goes under his guard's ass, the guy to the right side of his center. The running back's confused. Running back has to move him back over to the center and say, "Hey, where the fuck are you going, man?" Like, the only time I've seen this is in a movie in Any Given Sunday. Jamie Foxx plays a quarterback. He's like the third string quarterback. The first two get hurt. He comes into the game. It's like fast paced. It's moving way too fast for him. And on one play, he goes to try to get under center, and the guard looks back at him and he's like, "Dude, get out of my ass." And he's like, "Oh, damn," and has to move over to the center. That's the only time I've seen that was in a movie. And Kirk Cousins just put a real life Any Given Sunday moment on film, and he just makes it so easy for people to make fun of him all the time. Like, Kirk, come on, man, get it together. Like, I'm over here trying to defend the shit out of you, and you just keep doing silly, goofy shit to make people make fun of you. Like, Kirk has been great this season, man. That has no reason of why they lost the game, but it is an embarrassing moment, man. I feel for Kirk like it's another moment that people are going to talk about and people are going to make fun of him for. But Kirk has been great, and I think his level of play this year is why they're going to get into the playoffs, regardless of this loss to the Niners. And I said that going into the game. I said whoever loses this game is still going to make the playoffs. This is a game where both teams are going to make the playoffs regardless of who loses. And I still think that for the Vikings, you can bet on that. I still think the Vikings will make the playoffs, unless, of course, something happens to Kirk or both of those or one of those receivers, especially like Justin Jefferson. That's something that would hurt them a lot more than Dalvin Cook being out hurts them. Speaking of the NFC, when we go into the most impressive team in the NFC, I talked about the Patriots and how impressive they've been, but going to the NFC, the most impressive team is clearly the Green Bay Packers. You talk about a team that is riddled with injuries. I've said this before. They some way, somehow continue to play well. Guys like Rasul Douglas, all these guys that they've been bringing in to try to make up for Jair Alexander, to make up for Z Smith, to make up for Bakhtiari being out, Alton Jenkins being out, all these offensive linemen that they have out. This was a recipe for disaster. This should have been a game that just made sense. The Packers have all these offensive linemen out. The Rams have Aaron Donald and Von Miller, and these, on paper, one of the best front fours you can put out on a field. This should be a no-brainer. The Rams should win this game. And it didn't work out that way. Aaron Rodgers ended up getting time in the pocket. Aaron Donald, Von Miller, these dudes can't get to him. The line holds up. He's making plays. Davante Adams is not getting shadowed by Jalen Ramsey for God knows what reason. They're playing Jalen Ramsey in the slot a lot. They're having him play a lot of zone defense. He's playing on Davante Adams sometimes. But, dude, in this situation, Jalen Ramsey should have been on Davante Adams a large percentage of the time, especially a lot more than they had him on Davante Adams. You can't allow these other dudes to guard Davante Adams. Every time they did, Davante Adams ate them alive. He is one of, if not the best receiver in the NFL. Why not put the best, or one of the best corners in the entire NFL on him permanently? Like, I don't like the execution. Aaron Rodgers they were able to do things, and shout out to Rodgers and LaFleur. I'm sure it was LaFleur's designs as well, being able to motion out. If they did see Jalen Ramsey on him in certain situations in the slot, they would motion out, or if he was kind of on the outside, they would motion a tight end or a receiver outside of Davante Adams to see if Jalen Ramsey would switch off, which he did, and then they're able to say, okay, it's clearly man. But now we have the situation that we want, which is Davante Adams matched up with somebody not named Jalen Ramsey, and he took complete advantage of it. The Packers are a team that is surging, and right now, again, playing your best football as you're trying to get healthy going into the playoffs. If they can get Bakhtiari back, if they can get Jair Alexander back, if they can get Smith back, if they can get Rashawn Gary at 100% again, like, this is a team that is going to be very, very difficult to beat, especially if you have to travel to Lambeau to beat them. And in Lambeau Field, when that snow starts coming down, when you see those players' eyelashes get a little frosty on the ends, when you see that big puff of smoke coming out, right? When you see how cold it is in Lambeau Field, that's when Aaron Rodgers thrives. That's when the Green Bay Packers thrive, and it is going to be a tough place for anybody to go to. Arizona needs this. If I'm Arizona, man, I need to keep the number 1 seed because I cannot travel to Green Bay. If I'm the Rams, I cannot travel to Green Bay. If I'm San Francisco, I'm worried about traveling to Green Bay. If I'm Dallas, I'm worried about traveling to Green Bay. Like, if the playoffs have to go through Green Bay, I just don't see right now. Can teams beat them? For sure. But I don't see anybody beating Green Bay in Green Bay, especially if they get these guys back healthy at the right time. They are the team to beat in the NFC. Sticking in the NFC, obviously, huge game tomorrow night. Cowboys, Saints. The Saints, if they win this game, like I said, there's just, because of the Vikings record and you know what I mean, they could still be in the hunt. I just don't see it. I just don't see the Saints being able to win games, to win enough games to get into the playoffs. So it's not as big as a game for the Saints as it is for the Cowboys. The Cowboys, you can't lose, man. I understand you still got some guys out. I understand Mike McCarthy is going to be out for this game. You cannot lose. You cannot lose to a team that is on a losing streak, that does not have their starting quarterback, they're getting their running back, who Alvin Kamara, like I said, makes a big difference. This offense will look better. I promise you that. If you're a Cowboy fan, don't get frustrated when the Saints score. Their offense is going to look better from last week and the week prior, not just because they're playing against the Cowboys defense. When they go out there and score, don't say, oh, our defense is so bad. Like, we have such a worse defense than the Eagles or any of these other teams that the Saints have played. No, a large part of it, first of all, our defense is not as good as the Buffalo Bills. That's clearly, you can just look at stats for that. But it's also because Alvin Kamara is a huge part of that team. And when Alvin Kamara is out, their offense looks just non-existent. So with Alvin Kamara back, they're going to get back into the things that they want to do, which is running the ball with him, getting him involved in screen passes, getting him out, motioning him out as a wide out, and getting him into mismatches that they feel comfortable with. So it's going to make a difference. Like, their offense is going to look better with Kamara. They also might look better with Taysom Hill. If I'm understanding, Taysom Hill's getting the start over Simeon. Taysom Hill, at least, Taysom Hill's not a better quarterback in terms of just being a pocket passer than Simeon. Taysom Hill is not that guy, but the thing that Taysom Hill does do is present another thing to look at, right? He just presents another option for the offense, whether it's him running the ball, being able to get into read option looks, being able to get into like these QB power runs, and being able to get out of the pocket, take off. You have to contain him. You have to make sure that you're accounting for his legs. You have to account for more from Taysom Hill, even if he's not going to beat you downfield. He's not going to just throw dots all across the field and make you pay on intermediate throws and deep timing routes. Like, he's not that type of guy. But he does add a different dimension to this offense, which is going to be something the Cowboys have to deal with. But with Amari Cooper, with CeeDee Lamb's return, with DeMarcus Lawrence's first game back, you expect the Cowboys to win. I haven't been in panic mode. Even after the Raiders game, I know a lot of Cowboys fans were in panic mode. I haven't been in panic mode at all. If we lose to the Saints, I start getting in panic mode. Then I'm starting to say, man, we better get Randy Gregory and them boys back, and we better look amazing. Like, we would have to become night and day with how we're playing if we lose to the Saints. I suspect the Cowboys to win. They're a 4.5 point favorite going into the Saints, going into New Orleans. I expect the Cowboys to cover that spread. That's my pick for the game, the Cowboys to cover 4.5. If I had to put a score on it, I'm going to say 28-17 Dallas. But that's it, man. That's everything for today. Thank you guys again. As always, I'll be back in 2 days on Friday to recap the game from Thursday. Hopefully it's a good recap. Hopefully I'm in a good mood because the Cowboys won. And then I'll be able to talk about upcoming fights, the upcoming card in the UFC, and then to review the upcoming games for week 13 of the NFL. Thank you guys as always. Before you head out, if you forgot to already, like and subscribe at the bottom. Hit those alerts. Don't miss any videos. Got some coming out tomorrow for y'all. Thanks as always. Enjoy this hump day. Peace.